look at the past weekend, it tells you more than we want to know about the state of things at the White House. It's amazing what can and does happen in 72 hours at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Then, a Washington Post reporter joins us with the very latest on the Khashoggi saga. We now know that the former Washington Post columnist was killed by the Saudis definitively inside their consulate in Turkey, and the CIA directly points the finger at the Saudi royal family. But there's still a lot of unanswered questions, including what the president's prepared to do about it. The 2018 election, it is over, thankfully. 2020, next, we're going to take a look who's up, who's down, and what, if anything, we learned from the midterms. Evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. As usual, it has been a very eventful weekend for the president, and not for many of the right reasons. I'm going to give you a recap. Now, bear in mind, all of this happened in just a few days, and you cannot, as they say, make this stuff up. Let's start with Trump's visit to California to visit areas ravaged by the deadliest wildfires in that state's history. You'll remember that the president's initial reaction to the disaster was to, well, criticize the state's policies and also threaten to pull federal funds. Now, he's a little more conciliatory. He's also saying that a lot of things that, well, frankly, you couldn't make up if you tried because they don't make any sense. Just take a listen for yourself.
You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem.
So get out the rakes, right? That'll solve the problem. First of all, the Finnish president said he never spoke to Trump about raking. And even if he did, anybody with their sound mind that would compare Finland to California is ridiculous. Finland is Arctic, prolonged periods of rain and snow. California, hot, dry climate susceptible to droughts. I can't believe I'm saying this, but again, no comparison. Plus, take a look at the reaction from Governor Jerry Brown behind the president when Trump repeatedly, mistakenly said the wrong places of where they've been, including in this clip, having just visited Pleasure, California, even though they were just in the town of Paradise, which got obliterated.
And what we saw at Pleasure, what a name right now. But what we just saw, we just left Pleasure. Paradise. For Paradise.
The president also started a political firestorm with retired Admiral William McRaven. If you ask, why do I remember that name? Well, McRaven is the hero who led the Navy SEAL raid that killed Osama bin Laden. The raid and McRaven have rightly been universally applauded, and it was carried out flawlessly. But McRaven, he had the temerity, apparently, to criticize Trump because of his assaults on the press in a democracy, that being dangerous. As we know, that doesn't usually lead to a president that would be, let's just say, temperate. The admiral said Trump is threatening democracy when he calls the media the enemy of the people. Chris Wallace of Fox News asked Trump that question. Look at the exchange.
Bill McRaven, retired admiral, Navy SEAL, 37 years, former head of U.S. Special Operations.
Hillary Clinton fan.
Special Operations.
Excuse me, Hillary Clinton fan.
Who led the operations, commanded the operations that took down Saddam Hussein and that killed Osama bin Laden, says that your sentiment is the greatest threat to democracy in his lifetime.
He's a Hillary Clinton backer and an Obama backer. And frankly,
he was a Navy SEAL.
Wouldn't it have been nice if we got Osama bin Laden a lot sooner than that?
After hearing that, Admiral McRaven issued this statement, quote, I did not back Hillary Clinton or anyone else. I'm a fan of President Obama and President George W. Bush, both of whom I worked for. I admire all presidents, regardless of their political party, who uphold the dignity of the office and who use that office to bring the nation together in challenging times. And that brings us to Veterans Day. Trump, he made international headlines when he visited France to mark the 100-year anniversary of the end of World War I. But he made news for all the wrong reasons there. He decided to skip one of the main ceremonies at a cemetery where the Americans were buried because it was raining. Then he decided to throw the Secret Service under the bus for not letting his motorcade drive him there. Now, once he did get back on American soil in time for Veterans Day commemoration, unlike every president in recent memory, he decided that he would skip going to Arlington National Cemetery, instead staying home. Wallace also asked him about that.
You're back in Washington on Monday, Veterans Day. Why don't you go across the river to Arlington for that ceremony? Barack Obama went every year he was here in D.C.
I should have done that. I was extremely busy on calls for the country. We did a lot of calling, as you know. We had come in very late at night, and I had just left literally the American Cemetery in Paris, and I really probably assumed that was fine. And I was extremely busy because of affairs of state.
And believe it or not, things actually went downhill from there. Saturday, Trump said he was prepared to shut down the federal government again. Why? He wants money to build that wall of his. So now he's threatening Congress with a shutdown if he doesn't get his money for the wall, holding America hostage. Now, I thought Mexico was going to pay for it, but again, I digress. President Trump also managed to make himself the story during a Medal of Freedom ceremony at the White House. One of the honorees was Maureen Scalia. She is the widow of the late Supreme Court Justice. I want you to listen to what the president said to Scalia's widow, whose entire family was there present as they were honoring her late husband.
To Justice Scalia, for his lifetime of noble and truly incredible service. Joining us for this ceremony is his wife, Maureen, who's become a great friend of my family, myself, and their 9 children, Anne, Jean, John, Catherine, Mary Claire, Paul, Matthew, Christopher, and Meg. You were very busy. Wow. Wow. I always knew I liked him.
That brings me to the never-ending revolving door at the White House. We've already seen record turnover, unprecedented turnover, and now Trump's saying 3 to 5 more cabinet officials could soon leave, including on that list John Kelly, Chief of Staff, and Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. Then there's the Khashoggi incident. The Washington Post journalist brutally murdered in the Saudi embassy in Turkey. Turkish officials, they have been pointing fingers directly at the Saudi royal family and the crown prince more specifically for weeks. There is tons of corroborating evidence. Hit squads who worked for the government, 15 in all, flying on private jets from Saudi Arabia. An audio tape of the killing that President Trump has refused to even listen to. And I can keep going on and on. But now, the CIA, our top intelligence agency, says the Saudi leader had his fingerprints all over this thing. But Trump, being Trump, says, you know what? That might be the CIA, but he believes the Saudis.
Did MBS lie to you, sir?
I don't know. You know, who can really know? But I can say this. He's got many people now that say he had no knowledge.
What if the Crown Prince, speaking to you, the President of the United States, directly lied to you about it?
Well, he told me that he had nothing to do with it. He told me that, I would say, maybe 5 times at different points.
So what if he's lying?
As recently as a few days ago.
Do you just live with it because you need him?
Well, will anybody really know? All right? Will anybody really know?
Apparently it's definitive from the audio tapes. And again, our Central Intelligence Agency says it's him. MBS ordered this. I haven't found anyone on Capitol Hill other than that guy in the Oval who seems to think otherwise. So yeah, I think we kind of do know. But it's all part of a pattern for the president. When someone's accused of something, then denies it, well, as long as they say they didn't do it to him, that's good enough. Take a listen.
Democrats are willing to do anything and to hurt anyone to get their way, like they're doing with Judge Kavanaugh. And he's a good man, great student, great intellect, Never had a problem. All of a sudden, oh, let's go back to high school.
They think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial.
Now, Manafort has totally denied it. He denied it.
Roy Moore denies it. That's all I can say. He denies it. And by the way, he totally denies it.
Chairman Kim would like to have another meeting. We'll have a meeting. And I was really being tough, and so was he. And we would go back and forth. And then we fell in love. Okay?
Our president. All right, coming up next, I just told you about new developments when it comes to the death of the Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. After the break, we'll be joined by a Washington Post reporter who joins us with a lot more on the case and Trump's handling of it.